Dementia, depression, Alzheimer's, and chronic traumatic encephalopathy is something you don't think about when your football team is driving the field in the last minute of the Super Bowl for the big win. Linemen colliding their large bodies and heads against each other on every down. Running backs lowering their heads and shooting the gap just to get smothered by a linebacker. Receivers getting speared from a charging safety at full speed and left unconscious on the ground. The National Football League and its players have seen their fair share of concussions throughout the seasons. Concussions were always a respected part of the game. Everyone thinks it's a tough sport. You don't like it, don't play it. Men had once garnered their manliness on the aspect of how hard they could tackle another and even try to knock him out. Coaches egged on the players. Hit them hard. Take out their knees. Hurt them. Many players of the NFL maintain that same mentality today. Brian Urlacher, the star middle linebacker in the face of the Chicago Bears, has openly said that he would cover up a serious concussion to continue to play a game. In fact, a poll done in 2012 by the Sporting News staff of 200 current NFL players found that 56% of the current players would lie about a concussion to continue to play. The players interviewed said they would continue to play even if they openly knew it would affect their quality of life later. There are now over 2,000 players from the past and present that are suing the NFL for hiding information relating head trauma and permanent brain injuries to the equipment given to the players. I will provide evidence and cite studies that are the most comprehensive to date and to prove that continuous mild traumatic brain injuries by NFL players is related to degenerative brain disease. So how did all this happen? How did our idols become such mental wrecks that they die at such a young age of 50 and 60? Concussions are often thought of by players and non-players alike as a bruising of the brain. This is actually quite wrong. As stated by neurologists from the Boston University, a concussion occurs when the head either accelerates rapidly and then is stopped or is spun rapidly. The violent shaking of the brain causes to become depolarized and fire all neurotransmitters at once in an unhealthy cascade, flooding the brain with chemicals and deadening receptors. They continue. Once a person suffers a concussion, he is as much as 4 times more likely to sustain a second one. In a 2009 congressional hearing, the NFL came under fire for the impact of head injuries sustained by NFL players. Commissioner Roger Goodell stated the NFL's policies were safe and no third-party involvement was necessary. Roger Goodell's arguments were based on the information and research gathered by an NFL-supported committee as proof. The Congress embarrassed Mr. Goodell at the hearing and compared the legitimacy of the NFL research to the dangers of the tobacco industry by falsely obtaining incomprehensible data and making sound decisions based on it. Several members of Congress accused Mr. Goodell of obfuscating the long-term effects of concussions. In 2009, the chairman of the committee resigned from the group. Since 2009, the NFL has implemented that any player showing significant signs of any type of concussion be removed from the game or practice and be barred from returning that same day. This is a great step, but when players can reach their full speeds within several steps, this does not make a large difference. While removing a player with signs of concussions is great, it is the repetitiveness of concussion that is the real threat. The most comprehensive study was just completed in 2012 by the Boston University for the study of traumatic encephalopathy. Supported by the Veterans Affairs Boston Healthcare System and in collaboration with Sports Legacy Institute. This 4-year study was done on a group of 85 individuals posthumously, 50 of which had been football players. The study was to search for evidence of chronic traumatic encephalopathy, more commonly known as CTE. CTE is a degenerative and incurable disease whose symptoms can include memory loss, depression, and dementia. CTE is caused by continuous mild traumatic brain injuries. These mild traumatic brain injuries are now referred to in 4 stages. Stage 1 of the disease is headaches, and loss of attention or concentration. This could be, as players refer to as a stinger or getting your bell rung. Stage 2 includes depression and explosive behavior. Stage 3 is compounded by cognitive impairment and trouble with functions such as planning and organization. Junior Seau had committed suicide and was suffering from Stage 3 CTE. Stage 4 includes dementia, difficulty with speech, and aggression. Of the 50 football players who were screened, only 1 did not have any portion of CTE. The brain was of a 24-year-old male who died from a heart attack. 34 of the 50 players had Stage 3 CTE or higher with some form of dementia, for example Alzheimer's, while exhibiting from prior psychologist meetings that they had lost function and attention to detail. The average age for the brains being diagnosed was 50 years old. Earlier studies once released by the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health showed evidence that men who played at least 5 seasons from 1959 to 1988 developed Alzheimer's or Lou Gehrig's disease at a rate of 19 times that of a normal individual between the ages of 13 and 49. A survey in 2000 by the NFL of the players showed that 60% of players suffered at least one concussion each season, with 26% more suffering more than one. That is 86% of the entire NFL in 2000. Those who had concussions reported problems of memory loss and speech impediments, with other neurological problems such as depression. In 2007, the University of North Carolina Center for Retired Athletes found that 595 retired NFL players who recalled sustaining more than 3 concussions were 3 times higher to be diagnosed with depression than those without. So what do the players have to say about concussions? Troy Polamalu has shown that he believes he has been diagnosed with head injuries of up to 100 concussions in a single year. He has had 8 major concussions under diagnosis where blackouts have occurred. Ray Lewis is in his final season of football and has no intention of slowing down. He is quoted, "You have to ask yourself what point of the game you're at, and how big is the game? Is it a playoff or a championship? Then I'd be out there until I die." This mentality does not transfer to the older players. Older players who are since long retired and coming of age now have a much different mentality. This perhaps due to their longevity, and now they are seeing how much damage was actually caused by football head traumas. The best example of this person has been the outspoken Terry Bradshaw. Terry has faced depression and severe concussions in his career. His talks of his loss of attention, ability to speak, and how he almost committed suicide. He has given specific examples of during games when he has asked other teammates in the huddle to make play calls for him because he can't think, or how getting his bell rung, he would take smelling salts and then proceed back onto the field. He openly admits that he has stopped stating statistics during pre-game shows for Fox because he can't recall them anymore. He advocates now for the football players to open up and come out with their own problems and to accept help from those they can. In conclusion, the Players Association obviously thinks that there is more to concussions suffered by players in the past than is being revealed, hence the mass lawsuit against the NFL. Independent analysis from the NFL committee has been finding more and more evidence that continual mild traumatic injuries to the brain are leading to chronic traumatic encephalopathy. From the University of Boston to the Veterans Affairs, University of North Carolina, and numerous prominent neurologists from the United States, with evidence from retired players such as Terry Bradshaw, all have come to the conclusion that repeated concussions from playing football is leading to degenerative brain diseases.